All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Behind the Grind. So, this is a video that I wanted to make talking about Warhammer 40k Space Marines Exterminatus game mode, which essentially is a horde mode that pits 4 players in a 4-player co-op against 20 waves of orcs. And I just really wanted to make this video to kind of talk to everybody about this game mode and how it compares to Space Marine 2 Siege mode and what it does better, what it does worse, and overall what I think Space Marine 2 should have learned from Space Marine 1, given that the game was released 14 years ago and they had a lot of opportunity to really switch up and innovate the game. However, my personal opinion, I do not think they did. So stay tuned to find out what I think Space Marine 1 did a lot better. But before we begin, I want to ask you to please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel to support our crusade to 40k subs. Also, let's take a moment to thank our channel members for supporting the Behind the Grind YouTube channel. Joining will give you access to some cool perks like adding me as a friend and playing some games together. Your help means a lot, and if you're interested in being a channel member, check out the information in the description down below. Thank you. Without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about Space Marine 1's Exterminatus game mode. So like I already said, this is a 4-player co-op that puts players in 20 regular waves against the forces of the orcs, and it also has a bonus wave against chaos all the way at the end. So overall, we have 2 separate maps with unique sectors in each of those specific maps, something that Space Marine 2 lacks. If you guys have played Space Marine 2 Siege mode, you know that after the 3rd arena, the game starts reusing the same map. The first time I walked into the 4th sector in Space Marine 2, only to see the original sector just copy and pasted, was a big disappointment. And well, if you're playing Space Marine 1 and you're playing this horde mode, don't worry, none of the maps are reused. So that is a big positive coming from Space Marine 1. And moving on, another thing that I do want to mention is that for the most part, this game mode is pretty much exclusively orcs. You will mostly be fighting orcs unless you get that bonus wave at the end of your run. So within the actual waves, obviously the game does not alternate between orcs and chaos. However, I do want to say that the orcs on their own offer more than enough variety, which is why I think this game really works well. So the orcs obviously have their melee units, they have their long range units, they use all sorts of different kinds of different orcs in order to disrupt your operations, and that's something that I think that Space Marine 2 really lacks. There's a big disconnect between both of the factions in Space Marine 2. While in the Tyranids you get more melee focused combat, with the Chaos Thousand Suns you get a lot of that ranged combat. However, in Space Marine 1 with the orcs, you pretty much get a mix of everything. You get all your melee units, you get your ranged units, you even get your squigs that come in and try to blow your ass sky high. So I will say that you won't really get sick and tired of fighting the orcs in this game mode, because the orcs as their own faction really do offer a lot, and there's a big variety in gameplay. The higher you go up in waves, the harder the game gets, and the more difficult orcs start to appear. You get a lot more of those different knobs, and you get a lot more squigs, and you get orcs that are just more heavily armed the higher you go. So it definitely gets pretty hard the more you play, so watch out for those higher rounds. But anyways, comparing Space Marine 1 to Space Marine 2 actually is pretty embarrassing. Now, the reason why I say this is in Space Marine 1 Horde mode, you obviously get your different sectors, you get your 5 rounds per sector, 4-player cooperation, and you're mostly fighting the orcs. However, nothing really changed in Siege mode 14 years later, except for the Requisition store in Space Marine 2 that allows you to summon NPCs and like buy armor and health and ammo and all that kind of stuff. Space Marine 1 obviously doesn't have a requisition store. You had to find ammo drops by killing enemies, and in Space Marine 2, that's pretty much everything that was innovated on. You see, at least Space Marine 1 would at least let you use another player character, so it was 4-player co-op. However, in Space Marine 2, they not only took that away, but they only added the requisition store on top of what Space Marine 1 already had. I didn't expect Space Marine 1 and Space Marine 2's Horde modes to be so similar until I played Space Marine 1's Exterminatus for the first time, and I was like, holy shit, this is actually like the same game, but the only thing that Space Marine 2 did was add the store onto it. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below if you like Space Marine 1's Exterminatus more, or if you like Space Marine 2's Siege mode a lot more. However, I think everybody can agree that Space Marine 2's Siege mode did not do enough to innovate on the formula, and They had 14 years to kind of refine and improve and just add things onto the original game, and playing Space Marine 2 Siege Mode after playing Space Marine 1 Exterminatus really shows how much they really missed out on improving the gameplay. Could you guys imagine the outrage that would have happened had Gears of War 3 released their Horde mode and they didn't improve upon Gears of War 2's formula? Imagine if it was just the same Horde mode copy and pasted and they just add a little store. That's pretty much how Space Marine 2 is comparing to Space Marine 1. So all in all, kind of a shorter video, just really discussing what I think about Space Marine 1's Exterminatus game mode. There's a lot to enjoy here. I do recommend it if you haven't played it already, that you go back and check out this game mode. It's really quite special. Not only do you get 4 players to fight against the orcs in, but you also get a multiple variety of maps here. You also get to use the same class multiple times. You're not locked to a specific class like you are in Space Marine 2. If somebody already picks a class in Space Marine 2, then you cannot use that class. However, in Space Marine 1, if everybody wants to run around and use jetpacks, you guys are more than free to do just that. So, with all that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel for more content. Also, if you wish to support the channel further, I'd encourage you to join the channel membership for exclusive perks. Thanks. This has been Behind the Grind, talking about Space Marine 1's Exterminatus Horde mode. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!